Good evening, it's Friday, it's 5:30 and the Tube is editing. Live on air, we're editing this footage of David Bowie, which was shot this morning in London, and later on in the programme, this man, so-called, will have cut it and you'll be able to see it.
Brilliant.
Well, good heavens, that commercial break has certainly got me pretty thirsty. Thank you very much. Well, we talked to David Bowie at a press... We saw him at a press conference this morning, and this film has been rushed up. Later in the series, we'll be having a fully fledged interview, so cheers, David, and here he is.
Hey! Day in and day out. You stay in, you fade out. She was born in a handbag, so love left on the doorstep. What she lacks is a backup, 'cause nothing makes her dance. She's gonna find us some money, honey, trying to pay the rent. That's a pretty insurrection that everybody's shouting about. Bands at the moment, I think the favourites at the moment are, I like The very much. I like Screaming Blue Messiahs, are one of my favourites. And I still like Psychedelic Furs, but the last record I bought, I think probably was Gunshy. But I get given an awful lot. But yes, Screaming Blue, I've bought you solid records. So. Is it true I love this one. Is it true I'm going to play Frank Sinatra? Well, Frank and I talked the other day, you know. That story, I first saw that story in about 1977 is the first time that came up. Because like a damn fool, I probably said it. But since, and it's like a perennial, it comes up like every few years. Absolutely not, it's having absolutely no intention. And I did read somewhere Nancy Sinatra, but there you can't believe everything you read in the... Nancy Sinatra apparently suggested that I would be good to do the role, and I think I'm flattered, I'm not sure. I'm not very good with horses' heads, but I've never had much practice. But I don't think I'll be doing that role. It's not really at the top of my list.
David, what's all this about glass spiders?
What's all this about glass spiders? What is it you've got going with spiders, Bowie? I don't know. Spiders keep coming up in my references all the time, from obviously from the spiders from Mars. And I don't know what the Jungian aspects of it are, but I see it as some kind of mother figure. Whoa. Okay. Do you want to run with that one for a bit? So it's kind of it's the pivotal song on the album, and it's the idea of children when they eventually, there's a point in every child's life when it realizes its parents are really not something they can depend on for everything. They are kind of on their own. It's that kind of feeling, and that permeates the feeling of the show that I'm putting together. I might be appearing at the International AIDS Benefit on April the 1st. I will in fact be in America at that particular time, but it's very worthwhile doing, yes. I have taken an AIDS test. I would, every time I change a partner, I would take an AIDS test. I suggest everybody takes an AIDS test if they change partners. I also suggest they wear condoms, okay? Because it's one of the most frightening diseases that this planet has ever faced. We'll see you on tour. It's just a one-done secret. All the secrets in the UK, torn apart in the UK. In the dribble of Mayday, 87 and cry, 87 and cry. And the there's no one in mind, and there's no one inside. Yeah. And only you rock along through the storm, but it couldn't be done without us. No, it couldn't be done without us. 87 and cry. 87 and through the pizza for the big guys. When the days were the days, boys, ran and just sent down for the enemy. You saw her hanging on the enemy. And with so much fun, and there's nowhere to scream. Oh, and only you race on to wonder where, but it couldn't be done without God. No, it couldn't be done without God.
Well, there's the fantastic David Bowie. We'll be having a lengthy interview with him next week, which we filmed. We'll be seeing all of his video and stuff like that. It's also in the papers, he said in the interview, that he was retiring, which was, of course, nonsense. And it often says in the papers, an insider says David is packing it in. Well, if you read an insider
says,
it means that they've made it up.
A close friend. Close friend of who? Who's close friend? The journalist? The janitor at the newspaper? Whose close friend says these things?
We shall find out.
We'll find out by next week.
Also...
Afternoon, Julian.
Good afternoon. Keeping well?
I haven't called you Julian ever. I
No.
hope you don't mind me calling you that.
No, I'd like you to call me that. My parents called me that for a long time. Then it was abbreviated.
Thanks, Jools.
That's okay. Julian, Jools, Mr. Holland, whatever you fancy, really. Jun, even. Let's start with your record. There's a few subjects to cover here, but I think that the new album, Never Let Me Down, I think we should start at the beginning, and you best tell us about who's on it.
Any particular ones, or...?
Well, because there's a lot of different people on it, aren't there?
Yeah. Last year I went over to Switzerland and with Iggy Pop, Jimmy Osterberg, and we started writing up in the mountain. I've got to go back that way because that's the way it works for me anyway. And we started writing up in the mountains, and we'd do ski and all that, because he skis, very good skier. And in the evenings, there's nothing to do. We took a 4-track up and the guitars and whatever, and synthesizers and drum machines, and started writing up that. And it's the first time I think Jimmy's prepared an album that much in advance, and me too for a long time. And then we went, after a couple of months of writing, we overwrote. I wrote something like 22 songs for the album. Then we went down to Montreux, and the Mountain Studios there with Dave Richards, who's the sort of house engineer there. Recorded with just Jimmy, Kevin Armstrong, a Turkish musician called Erdal Kızılkaya, who's a multi-instrumentalist that I started working with a couple of years ago, in fact. He was doing demos with me for other bits and pieces, and he was working in this dance band around Switzerland, but he was incredibly funky. And he was born in a little village. I'm going off at a tangent. It doesn't matter, does it? No. And he was born in a little Turkish village, and he just picked up on literally dervish music, and he was working in Turkish country music. And then he went to the equivalent of Juilliard music school in Turkey, where he learned every instrument in the orchestra. But he had this kind of funky Turkish dervish music thing behind him. And so he ended up playing soul and rock and all that. And then I found him in Switzerland. I thought, this guy's incredible, an extraordinary musician.
Where did you come across him?
I saw him, I was having dinner someplace, and there was a dance band, and he was the bass player. And I thought, what a dynamite bass player. This guy should be in New York, playing. And then I said, yeah, that's incredible. Why else do you play anything out there? Well, this is my second instrument. I play the keyboards and synthesizer. And I heard him play that, and then he said, no, I play little drums. And he's drumming like a demon, and just everything he touched, he plays it incredibly well. So I thought, maybe he'd would you like to be my band? And so he said he'd like to, come along and work with me. So we did a few demos, and then we got him on the Jimmy sessions. And so it's basically Erdal and Kevin Armstrong were that band. Erdal tells me little bits and pieces about life in Turkey, and he said in the village that he was in, he said, if you wanted a massage, all right, you're gonna love this. If you wanted a massage in that village, you go out in the mornings outside the barber shop and you lie down on the pavement, and a bloke comes along with a bear, all right, a big mountain bear,
Yes.
and then the bear puts its front paws all over your back, and it walks on your back for about 15 minutes, and then you pay what's the money? What's the currency in Turkey?
The falafel?
The falafel, yeah, of course it is, the falafel. You pay your 15 falafel. And
there you go, a bit of bear walking.
Bob's your uncle, yeah. Bit of bear walking.
It must have been a big culture shock for him to then...
It was quite a culture shock. He's never been out of Switzerland, so I don't know what the States is going to do to him.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing. You've also got Mickey Rourke on it.
Mickey Rourke, yeah, he's on the road with us too.
Is he? Speaking?
No, I wish.
No.
How can you imagine?
I believed it, though.
Yeah, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah, Mickey came in and did a little rap thing in the middle of one of the songs.
Mm. The new single is Day In, Day Out.
Yeah.
And there's a video which we can see in just a minute, in fact. We can watch it in just a second.
Yeah.
But there is, I believe, a lot of controversy surrounding it in America, and you've had problems there. What can you tell us of that before we see the video?
Yeah, it's... Yeah, well, some stations are not playing it over there, and I think, well, firstly, the subject matter of the song was, it was based, as you know, that my stuff is not particularly didactic. I mean, I'm not a Clash, I'm not like Dylan, it's not like real strong political polemics, I mean, it's kind of impressionistic and surrealistic, but I usually use fairly strong meat for the subject matter that I'm going to write about. And I just sort of... The impression that I got of the situation of an uncaring society, specifically in America, but needless to say, any American situation is reflective of what happens in Europe anyway. But I was honing in on what was happening to homeless people, to destitute people, to people that really have no help at all from the system or from the authorities. And it was really the protagonist is a young girl who's born in poverty, lives in poverty, resorts to prostitution, is involved with drugs, and there seems no way out for her and her baby. It's a simple story, and it's a story. It's not a kid's story. I mean, it's just, you know, like, from my perspective, a story of this girl and her problems coping with her position. And the video was the same weight as the song. And there's a scene in the video where the girl is pulled into a car and is raped. Yes, it's obvious, or at least it's an attempted rape. And on the conclusion of that, she escapes from the car, only like scantily clad in panties and underwear, which was what got the Americans. They, you know, panties and underwear. It wasn't even the rape, which was amazing, which I thought was extraordinary. And then she's running along the street, and the next thing that happens to her is that she's taken by the police, arrest her for being in her underwear. You know, like, so it's like it's coming at the solids hit the fan all the way around for this girl. And the Americans saw it, and so they won't like the intimation of rape and all that. This is late night television in America, where you got things like Magnum. You've got the most incredible things happening on Miami Vice. But because this is with music, and it's an indictment of an uncaring society. It's not even. It's not like as though it's violence for pleasure, you know? Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing to get off on in it, you know? It's not like, and it's, well, we're not changing it anyway.
No.
So that's, I guess, if you want to call it controversy, that's...
Well, yeah, so do you think...
I just think it's mindless. I'm so fed up with all that.
Do you find it very disturbing, the sort of new puritanism that there seems to be about?
Oh, it's sweeping through America, yeah. Yeah, there's a real, I mean... It's really hitting the younger generation as well. There's, you know, a certain kind of yappy thing that's happening to, like, 18 and 19-year-olds that are going through university and college. There's a real swing to the right with those people. But on the other hand, there's an antagonistic thing. There's another force fighting it, because old Hopalong has really made some real bad mistakes over the last few months. So he's shaking his foundation a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the major thing he's shaking his foundation is he doesn't understand how bright Gorbachev is, who's a man I think is terrific. I think Gorbachev is the best thing that ever happened to Russia. I mean, he's as communist as the next guy, as radically communist. But he knows about the 20th century. He's aware of a young guard that should be coming in, and he's trying to get rid of the old guard. He's opening up Russia to all kinds of Western influences and allowing us to see what Russia's like, really. And showing us Russia's mistakes and the problems they're having, their internal problems. I think he's, if anything, he's the one guy that is not going to allow a nuclear situation to develop.
Are you optimistic, do you think, towards the future of our planet?
Yeah, I think it's people like Gorbachev around, yeah. Not with people like Hopalong.
No, as he's known.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Reagan, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, no, well, I don't...
I'm sure everybody knows.
Well, let's have a look at the video. I mean, there's a lot to talk and think about there, isn't
All
there?
right,
Shall we-
Julian, yeah.
shall we- Well, would you like to turn the television on?
Do I literally turn it on then, Julian?
There you are.
There you go.
And then we get... There we are. And now this is what you call acting. Because
Right.
there is no video there. The excellent David Bowie there. And of course, next week, not next week, on Sunday, you can see another different David Bowie interview in the Tube Repeat. So although the Tube will be repeated, the David Bowie interview will be completely different, telling us new things. Welcome back then. As you know, the Tube normally goes out live on a Friday and is repeated on Sunday. This is Sunday now, and I'm coming to you live because I've got my casual clothes on. Last week, or no, rather on Friday, you saw David Bowie doing an interview. Now we show you another part of the interview where he reveals far more interesting things, and we show all of the video, every single minute of it.
So what I want to know is, Julian, is what about your music?
Well, funnily enough, doing a video for a weirdo song yesterday, recording with an orchestra this afternoon, which brings me on to yourself, because I got up this morning and I thought, well, what a busy day it is for me then. Talk to David Bowie in the afternoon, look out at the view of the river, and then go and record with an orchestra with Squeeze. I thought, well, this is a busy day. Listening to the radio, droning on in the background, and it said, and we have important news that David Bowie is about to retire, and we'll be talking to find out all about that with him when we talk to him. And I thought, well, it sounds a bit unlikely.
Yeah, I know, that was a bit strong.
Yes,
I couldn't believe
it might
that.
be, yes.
I could believe it because I know what paper it was in. But
What paper was it in?
It was a Mirror, I think. Could be the other one. It was the Mirror. It was 2 paragraphs. In 2 paragraphs, they got 3 things wrong, which was incredible. They said that I was... they said I was... What I said... There was a press conference I did in New York, and I said... Somebody said, is it a last tour or something like that? And I said, well, I might be diversifying my career. Well, they say an invasive answer, right? So I just gave an invasive answer. No way and nowhere did I say that this is a final tour. So that's number one. Second one was, I said, I'll be taking out costumes, lights, theatrical sets, and floss. Ha 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 ha. Joke, you know, mild joke.
Yeah.
So in the paper it says he's taking out costumes and sex.
Oh, right.
So that, sex, right. So we got sex in there. And then we get rotting teeth.
They look fine to me.
I thought they looked very good to me too.
Yes. Well, what
So
about
my
them?
vanity was badly hit when I heard about crooked teeth, yeah. Rotting, no.
No.
Rotting sex,
Yes,
maybe.
rotting- so David Bowie takes rotting sex out
Fine,
on the road.
So he's giving up, he's retiring, he's not having any more rotting sex, is
Yes.
the actual story.
Right.
So it just shows you, you know, it just goes to
These
show
things-
you.
You can't believe anything you read in the papers.
You
That's
can't,
true,
and it
isn't
really, I know, it really, it's such a disappointment to me.
Well, I'm glad we've sorted that out.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking,
Phew.
I might get there and you might have already retired or something.
Yeah, or my teeth might have dropped out,
Who
everything.
knows? Yes, there might have been a bit of rotting sex on the floor,
Yeah.
and that's him. Talk
Nothing
to,
worse
you
than
know.
rotting sex on the floor.
Now,
Next morning's horrible.
had you have retired, though, of course.
Had I retired?
Just let's say.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that we can do that.
Yeah, all right.
We're humans. That's what separates us
Okay.
from the beast in the jungle.
That's-
Let's, let's move into that realm. Eric Clapton, for instance.
Yeah.
I saw an interview which the Tube did with him, and he said, yeah, in my spare time, I make models of steam traction engines
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
thought to myself, well, were you to retire,
Yeah.
what sort of pastime? I mean, do you
What
have an
would my
interest in
pastime
model
be?
engineering? I mean, what would you...
No, I think I'd probably become Eric Clapton.
Really?
Yeah. Well, if he's going to go on a steam train, so
Yeah.
oh dear, what would I do?
Do you have pastimes?
What
Or
would
do you,
I do?
do you have
Well,
time for
the
pastimes?
very obvious ones. I mean, just real simple stuff. Like I read an awful lot. Quite a prodigious reader. I read everything and anything that's out. I paint a bit. I don't paint as much as I used to, but I still paint a bit.
If you
And
retired...
in terms of like sports and stuff, you know, skiing, I suppose, is the only sport. I learned to swim last year.
For the first
For the
time?
first time, yeah. 39, I thought, I better, you know, before I hit 40.
Well, the news
I better
story
learn
would
to
be,
swim, you know.
I suppose, David Bowie in drowning avoidance shock or something
Absolutely,
like that.
yeah. David Bowie saves child's
Yeah.
life, something like that. That's what I thought. I'd learn to swim so I could get a headline out
Yeah,
of it.
absolutely.
Naturally, yeah.
Dangerous. That's extraordinary. Just
Oh, and
learned
this
to
year I
swim.
learned to roller skate.
Really, it's been a very athletic year then, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, one new thing a year, I thought.
Yes.
Like Eno used to say, I said, I get very, he said, I get very disappointed if I don't have one brilliant thought a week. I thought that was a lovely line, lovely little line.
Because Paul McCartney paints, doesn't he? Well, he's learning to paint. Do you think that's a soothing thing? What sort of things do you paint?
I think it's great to paint when you're really depressed. I think if I'm writing and recording, I find I don't need to paint. But if I'm not doing very well and I can't write, and there's a kind of a block or a blank there, then I revert to painting, and that kind of opens up like a watershed of ideas and associations and things. So it's kind of, it's almost a device to help me. I often find that one medium helps the other, you know. I mean, because I always go back to that analogy that all the mediums are rather like painting, and you can use the same tools and work within all the different mediums. And so I can understand what I'm trying to say often by painting it first, and then I think, now I know what I'm trying to write, and I can go back and write
both
it.
musically and lyrically?
Yeah. One of the things that I'd like to do, I've started buying up pieces of work by writers that I really admire, and I'm now working with a screenwriter that I like on taking it to the next stage, which is the screenplay, and then once that's together, then I'm going to start pulling in my crew. If I'm going to do the things that I want to do, I've got to start producing them myself, because there's no way, and the stuff I get from Hollywood is like Green Martian rock singer, you know.
Yes, yeah. Lots of. In fact, I was only talking to somebody earlier about the film The Fly. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. That's Jeff Goldblum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he's tremendous.
No story. It's all sort of...
I'm sure. Yeah. It's a shame because Goldblum is he's very good light comedy as well. I worked with him on a thing called Into the Night by John Landis movie that he made once, just as I was hitting him for that chopper thing, you know, with all that ghastly stuff. And I did a cameo thing. I like that thing I did in that, a cameo in Into the Night. It's one of my favourite things I've done.
Perhaps we might find a clip of that.
Oh, maybe.
Probably not, though.
As it happens.
Yeah. What about, what sort of films would you make then? If you're buying stuff up, and would you appear in them, or would you just produce them and not?
There's one. The two things that I've been working on is that one is for myself as an actor vehicle, a vanity showcase, I think they call it in the business, and the other one is a directorial debut. And it's actually very simple, very naturalistic, small budget, and is not quite what one would possibly expect from me. I mean, it's not sort of in the realms of surrealism or anything.
Word association, then.
Yeah.
Let's get on to that. There's two ways you can do it, I suppose. One is that you or I would start, and then we both have to then think of the next word that was to do with the word after. Or I've got a list of words that you would then have to say a word that you would associate with those list of words.
God, bloody hell. Who are you bringing on this? Young?
Yes, we've got yes,
Young, CG Young.
Yes, and we'll have a nice panel as well with some cardboard cut-out guests.
All right, give me a couple then. I'll tell you if I want to go on.
All right. Dance.
Twist.
Ooh, art.
Heckle.
Rhythm.
Blues.
Red. I knew you'd say that.
Red. Lennon.
Ooh. Mick Jagger.
Keith Richards.
Cliff Richard.
Harry Webb.
Piano.
School.
Britain.
Sorry, I honestly didn't hear that one.
Britain.
England.
Yeah. Oh. USA.
Chasm.
Time.
Clock.
Jools Holland.
Tube.
David Bowie.
Lost.
Thank you very much. That was all right, wasn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful.
I think psychologically, you
really
revealed yourself to be a
Julian.
psychopathic killer.
So that was a scintillating interview with groovy happening David Bowie.